G'day everyone, my name's Big Pup, and today we'll be running some Pokemon Go Battle League matches in the new Electric Cup. We'll be running a very suboptimal IV'd Galvantula, running Fury Cutter, Energy Ball and Lunge, a Dedenne, running Thundershock, Discharge and Play Rough, and a Hisuian Electrode. So without any further delay, let's hop into these battles and see the results. Jumping straight into the first match, we have Galvantula matched up against a Mirror Galvantula. We'll be throwing these Fury Cutters while they throw these Volt Switches. I think we get to the Lunge faster than them, but unfortunately no, they get to the Lunge faster. We'll shoot up the first Lunge, seeing as we're about to drop their attack, and then we'll let the next one go through. We'll throw in the Lunge, this will do some nice neutral damage, but they throw up a shield. Their attacks drop now, we Fury Cut, and I think with Fury Cutter, we get to the second Lunge faster than they get to their second Lunge. So we throw the Lunge, their attack is double debuffed, and they let that go through. Seeing as their attack is double debuffed, there's no need to shield here, so we'll let this Lunge go, and farm down. In comes the Zebra Pokemon, we're going to call it, and we're going to throw the Lunge. In comes the Lunge. This should do some nice neutral damage to that electric typing. Takes out almost half their health and they farm down. With their debuffed attack, we feel pretty comfortable coming in with the Dedenne, and I believe all this is going to be is a Wild Charge or a Flame Charge. In comes the Flame Charge. They've buffed their attack. We're going to throw the Discharge. This should either be KOing or getting a shield. In comes the Discharge. We KO. In comes the Hisuian Electrode, and we're going to go for the Play Rough. This should be doing a nice chunk of damage. We make a quick switch into our own Hisuian Electrode, trying to catch one of those charge moves, which won't be very effective. In comes the Energy Ball. We catch that, not very effective. We charge up to our own Energy Ball. We're going to let this go through. Both of their charge moves are obviously not doing very effective damage to us. We'll charge up to 2 Wild Charges. We'll throw the first Wild Charge. Our defense is now 2 stages debuffed. We'll keep going. We'll throw our Energy Ball. They get to their Wild Charge faster than us, or their Energy Ball. In comes the Energy Ball. We shield. In comes our own Energy Ball. This should be taking out the Hisuian Electrode, or getting it very low. Gets the shield. In comes our Dedenne. We'll throw the Play Rough, and that should be a good game. Good game to that trainer. Very close one. Dedenne coming in clutch in the end with the Play Rough. Moving on to the next match, we have Galvantula versus Raichu. Our Fury Cutter's doing some nice damage, but those charms are really digging into this very glassy Galvantula. We'll throw the Lunge to lower their attack. This will make those charms less deadly, and we'll keep farming up. Hopefully we'll get to a second Lunge. We get to the second Lunge. That's big. Now their attack's 2 stages debuffed, and we feel pretty comfortable coming in whatever Pokemon we want to throw in next. So in comes Dedenne. They'll make a quick switch to reset their debuffs into their own Galvantula, and we'll farm up to the Play Rough. This is just going to be a Lunge, not very effective damage because of our Fairy typing, so we'll throw the Play Rough. In comes the Play Rough. It should be doing some nice damage. Does almost all of their health. We'll keep farming up. We'll hopefully get to a Discharge. They get to a Lunge. Not very effective, but we're so low now that we want to shield the Lunge. We'll throw the Discharge, and this should be taking out the Galvantula. Discharge is a very, very spammy move. Very handy. We can quick switch into our Hisuian Electrode. They have no shields. We have a shield. We get to the Energy Ball, and this should be taking out the Alolan Graveler. Back comes in Raichu. We have a shield. We're going to throw up the shield, and then just get to a Wild Charge, and that should be a good game. They unfortunately get to another charge move. In comes the charge move. It's only a Brick Break. We hang on. We get to the Wild Charge. We're unable to throw it. In comes the Dedenne. It's a race to the Discharge. In comes the Discharge, and we manage to get there. The Dedenne showing who's the new mouse in town. In comes Discharge, takes out the Raichu, and that should be a good game. Moving into the next match, we have Galvantula into a Lantern. We like this matchup. Surf's doing neutral damage, and their Thunderbolt's not doing very much damage. In comes the Surf. Surf grabs the shield. We'll throw the Lunge. We'll debuff their attack. This should be doing also a nice chunk of damage to that tanky Lantern. We get the shield. They switch out to reset their debuff. In comes the Alolan Graveler. We'll throw a Lunge. These rock throws are doing massive damage, but this Lunge should reduce that damage. We get the attack debuff, and we make a quick switch into our own Hisuian Electrode. In comes the Rock Blast, presumably. Won't be very much damage. Yep, there's a nice little chunk of damage. We keep farming up. We get to the Energy Ball. We overfarm. In comes the Energy Ball. This should be taking out the Golem. In comes the Energy Ball. Takes out the Golem. We have energy for whatever comes in next. In comes the Galvantula. We'll get to the Energy Ball. This should be doing a nice chunk of damage, even though it's resisted. In comes the Energy Ball. Yep, does about half even though it's resisted. We keep farming. Will we get to the Wild Charge? No, we don't get to the Wild Charge. We will let the... Yeah, we will shield up. In comes the Lunge. We make a quick switch into Dedenne when they switch into Lantern. We farm up for the Play Rough. This should only be a Surf. It should do a nice chunk of damage, but not enough to take us out. Oh, they throw the Thunderbolt. Not very effective. We farm up. We overfarm. In comes the Play Rough. This should be taking out the... this should be doing a nice chunk of damage to the Lantern. Takes them into the red. All we need to do now is get to the Discharge. Whatever they throw, we should be able to tank. Not enough damage to take out the tanky Dedenne. Throw the Surf, get to the Discharge, and this should be taking out the Lantern. Discharge is such a handy move, as I said earlier. Very spammy and very effective. So in comes the Galvantula. They farm down. What are we going to do here? We have to throw in the Galvantula. We have to absorb this lunge. And then we'll come in with the Hisuian Electrode and charge up to the Wild Charge, and we should take the win. In comes Hisuian Electrode. We have the Wild Charge ready from before because we over-farmed. In comes the Wild Charge, and down goes the Galvantula. Good game to that trainer. Moving on to the next one. We have Galvantula against a Hisuian Electrode. We like this matchup because we're running Fury Cutter, so we're doing some nice super effective damage. In comes the Raichu. We get to the lunge, and this should be lowering the damage coming from these charms. In comes the lunge, does a nice chunk of damage, gets a shield actually. In comes the Dedenne, they're debuffed. We're going to throw the Discharge. Even though this is resisted, it still does a nice chunk of damage coming from Dedenne. In comes the Discharge, takes out a nice chunk of health. All we need to do now is get to another Discharge. In comes the Discharge. This should be taking out the Raichu or getting a shield. Takes out the Raichu. What's going to come in next? We got the Alolan Graveler. We're going to farm it to the Play Rough. We get to the Play Rough just before they take us out with the Rock Flow. In comes the Play Rough. Play Rough does a huge chunk of damage. In comes a Hisuian Electrode. We'll be able to take whatever charge move they want to throw. What's it going to be? The Rock Blast. In comes the Rock Blast. Takes out a nice chunk of health, but we can tank that quite easily. We over farm. We get to 1.5 Wild Charges. In comes the Wild Charge. Gets the shield. Will we get to another Wild Charge? Unfortunately not. In comes Galvantula. We have 2 shields. We better start using them. In comes the Rock Blast. That would have taken us out. We'll keep farming down. We are at a lunge. We throw the lunge. This will be taking out the Hisuian Electrode quite easily. In comes the lunge. Well, not quite taking out, but almost. Fury Cutter down. We have energy. All we need to do now is, we farm down the Alolan Graveler and we take the win. So very close match. Good game to that opponent. Here we have the mirror match of Galvantula versus Galvantula. We're a 15-15-15, so we should win CMP. In comes the lunge. This should be getting a shield or doing a nice chunk of damage. Gets the shield. They're debuffed now because we won the first lunge, so we may not shield this. Yep, we don't shield it. We're able to hang on. We should get to another lunge. Yep, we get to another lunge. This should twice debuff them. So their attack is very low right now. We feel quite comfortable to come in with our next Pokemon and just gain a lot of energy. We're up 2 shields to 1. They switch into Lantern. We have a great matchup switching into Hisuian Electrode. Whatever they throw, this won't be doing much damage. In comes the Surf. Still does a nice chunk of damage. We get to the Energy Ball. We over-farm because we're in such a great matchup. We take advantage of it. In comes the Energy Ball. This should be taking out the Lantern. Takes out the Lantern almost. We better start shielding. We have 2 shields left. In comes the Surf. We're able to farm down now. And we have boatloads of energy. What's this ball going to do? So we throw the Energy Ball. Getting that off onto their own Hisuian Electrode. They make a quick switch into Galvantula, but we're able to get to the Discharge. Discharging that little bit of energy with that little bit of health we have left. In comes the Discharge, takes out the Galvantula. We switch into Dedenne, and they back out of the game. So a good game to that opponent, very close match. In comes Galvantula against a Hisuian Electrode. We love this matchup. These Fury Cutters are doing big damage. They switch into their Raichu, running Charm. We throw the lunge. In comes the lunge. This is doing a nice chunk of damage. We're grabbing a shield. We grab the shield. They're debuffed and also they're switch locked. So this is a great opportunity to switch into our own mouse. Throw the Discharge. There's a mouse in the house. There's a new mouse in town. In comes the Discharge. Their attack is debuffed, so these charms aren't doing as much damage as they normally would be doing. In comes only a Brute Break. Yep, we're fairy typing. That's great. In comes another Discharge. We're going ham with these Discharges. Back after back. In comes Discharge. We take out the Raichu. We farm down. What's going to come in next? It's the Hisuian Electrode again. Can we get to the Play Rough? We realize we can't get to the Play Rough, so we throw a Discharge just to get off a nice little bit of chunk damage. In comes the Discharge. There's a nice little chunk. That's all we can ask for. In comes our Galvantula again. We've lined up nicely. These Fury Cutters are really digging into that Electrode. Doing some big damage. In comes Energy Ball. We need to shield that. That would take us out. In comes a Luxray. So very nice pick. Very meta with that Hidden Power Ground. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're running Hidden Power Ground. In comes the Psychic Fangs. We're going to debuff them with this lunge. In comes the lunge. Lunge gets the shield. We're going to keep farming up, get to almost 2 lunges. Then we'll switch out to our own Hisuian Electrode. This should only be a cruncher of Psychic Fangs, I'm predicting. Yep, Psychic Fangs. So we're able to take that on the head, get to this Energy Ball, and this should be taking out the Luxray. In comes another Psychic Fangs. We're not really worried about this. Does nice little chunks of damage. We're twice debuffed now. We're going to throw the Wild Charge. In comes the Wild Charge. Takes out the Luxray. In comes their own Hisuian Electrode. We're going to throw the Wild Charge. In comes the Wild Charge. Charging a little bout. And we're going to keep farming. They farm down, unfortunately. In comes Galvantula, though. We have a lunge ready, and this should be taking out the Hisuian Electrode. So good game to that trainer. Galvantula is definitely the MVP of this cup, in my opinion. It's going off. We're in a mirror match again with Galvantula. This trainer knows what's up. We're using Fury Cutter. They're using Volt Switch. We get to the lunge first this time in the mirror match. So we're going to throw the lunge. They must be over farming. In comes the lunge. Gets the shield. We're going to shield our own Galvantula in this matchup this time. We don't want to have such low health. So we're going to keep farming with the Fury Cutter. We should get to a second lunge before they get to theirs. In comes the lunge. This will be doing a nice chunk of damage. Gets the shield. We're going to keep farming. They're twice debuffed at this point, so there's no point shielding. This lunge won't do nearly enough damage to take us out, and we'll see if we can get to a third lunge. Come on, you good thing, go. In comes the third lunge. We get that third lunge. Let's go. In comes the lunge, takes out the Galvantula, and we win the mirror match with a shield left over. In comes Magneton. Bit of a tricky matchup, but I'm not really worried. It's such a glassy Pokemon that these energy balls are doing plenty of damage, and we're not really stressing about these magnet bombs. We can take them on the head. In comes the energy ball. Energy ball will be doing some nice damage to this steel type, even though it's resisted. In comes the energy ball, does a huge chunk of damage. We'll get 2 Thunder Shocks in. We're not really worried about the Magnet Ball again, so we'll let it go. Second Magnet Ball comes in, we get to a Wild Charge. Ooh, we save them energy. They make a quick switch into a Raichu. In comes the energy ball, this will be doing a nice chunk of damage. Almost takes out the Alolan Raichu. We switch into our mouse, you already know. Dedenne is the new mouse in the house. Throws up a shield, only a Thunder Punch, so there's no real need to shield. We'll Thunder Shock down, we have a Play Rough ready, and we're going to throw this Play Rough against the Steel type, taking the win. Dedenne counters Steel types confirmed. Moving on to the next match, we have Galvantula into Luxray. So we're praying it's not Hidden Power Ground. Luckily it's not, looks like only Hidden Power Electric or Spark. We'll keep farming up with these Fury Cutters, throw up a shield. It's only a Psychic Fang, so there's a bit of a mistake. We'll throw the lunge, in comes the lunge. So we're probably getting a shield. No, not getting a shield, but doing a huge chunk of damage. We farm down. We come out of energy with energy. We come out of that matchup with energy. They're throwing the rock throws. We're going to throw the lunge. This should do a nice chunk of damage to that Alolan Golem. They're actually running Rollout. The recommended on PvPoke is Rock Throw, but Rollout is so spammy. It's such a good fast move for charging up energy quickly. So they get into these Rock Blasts very fast. We'll throw another lunge. They're twice debuffed now. And we got a shield, so they're still at a shield advantage, unfortunately, but that's okay. We'll come in whatever. Rock Blast comes in, we throw into Dedenne. We're going to keep farming up, get to a Discharge. We're not really stressing about this attack, seeing as they're twice debuffed. In comes the Wild Charge. Yep, it's resisted and twice debuffed. In comes Hisuian Electrode. We're going to throw the Play Rough. No baiting here. In comes the Play Rough. Takes out more than half of the Hisuian Electrode's health. In comes another Discharge. Discharge should be doing some nice damage here. In comes the Discharge, gets a shield, we make a quick switch, or we try and make a quick switch into our own Hisuian Electrode, but unfortunately, that was a CMP tie. They throw the Wild Charge, they're debuffed now by 2 stages. In comes another Wild Charge, I assume. Yep, Wild Charge, takes out our Dedenne, but we come in with our own Hisuian Electrode. We should just need to get to a Discharge here. They're throwing a third Wild Charge, so now they're just debuffed to all hell, and we farm down, and they back out. So good game to that trainer. Thank you all so much for watching. I had a blast running this team and playing in the Electric Cup. Please like and subscribe and tune in for more content. See you later.